And now to Afghanistan, where a new rule introduced this week by the Taliban bans Afghan women from entering the capital Kabul's public parks and fun fairs, just months after ordering access to be segregated by gender. Well, this is the latest in a series of measures which appear to be pushing women away from public spaces. They're already banned from travelling without a male escort, and they must wear a hijab or burqa whenever they are out of the home. Secondary schools for girls have also been shut for over a year across most of the country. Well, Fawzia Koofi served as an Afghan parliamentary lawmaker. She's an internationally renowned advocate for the rights of women and children, and she was the first female in the Afghan parliament to be elected as second deputy speaker. She also headed the parliament's Women's Affairs Commission and was one of the few women who were involved in the Doha negotiations with the Taliban. Well, I'm delighted she joins me now. Fawzia, thank you so much for being here with us on Times Radio.
Thank you, Hannah, for having me.
Tell me whether you felt surprised by this latest move. The Taliban have consistently claimed they're willing to be more tolerant, and yet this casts so much more doubt over those claims, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Well, if not on weekly basis, at least on monthly base, Taliban issue an edict or bring up another pressure level to eliminate women from civic, political, and social life. In the last 15 months that they have taken power in Afghanistan, they have so far issued more than 34 edicts and decrees. The last one is the one that actually stops women from entering parks or any public places that creates recreational and fun for them. Literally, Afghanistan has become an open prison for women. And what Taliban or other military extremist groups like them do in different countries that they control is suppress women. And that's the only policy. They don't have a policy for economic empowerment. Afghanistan is suffering from the highest poverty rate. They don't have plan to control the security and bring stability, bring rule of law. But what they are good at is suppressing the already suppressed women of Afghanistan. It's heartbreaking, of course, on a personal level. And also, as someone who has been working with international community, the silence of international community to see that this is happening in a country where they have invested blood and treasure to bring some level of, rule of law and liberty to the people of Afghanistan is also worrisome to see that the world is silent in the face of all of this.
What would you call on the international community to do when these sorts of policies are announced?
We expect that the international community should, get beyond decrees and statements. They have been issuing nice statements, press releases. Recently, there was a statement from UN General Assembly. I think what we want is Taliban to be held accountable because they signed the Doha Agreement on the basis of with the United States, on the basis of which they committed themselves to a certain level of accountability. And that's why the world trusted them. And the world portrayed an image that we should also trust them. I was in the negotiation with them and I tried to understand what their position is. And I tried to tell them that Afghanistan has transformed. They need to adjust and adopt based on new transformed Afghanistan. But apparently everything was wrong. They were lying to us. They were lying to international community. I think we need to hold them accountable for what they do. Now, I know that there is bags of money that goes to Afghanistan. I know they travel. There are all these political pressures that could be imposed on Taliban, including travel ban. If they cannot allow women of Afghanistan to travel, why are they traveling with private jets? They need to really respect their commitments. They need to be pressurized for what for their pressure that they're bringing on the women of Afghanistan. And I think that will work. I know that will work. But the world is giving away so much to the Taliban, and in return, they don't give anything.
So back to something you said a little earlier, which was that Afghanistan, you said, is becoming a prison for women. I wonder what you hear from your friends and family and people on the ground there about what it feels like now as a woman in Afghanistan.
It's a life of fear it's a life of indignity. It's a life of humiliation. Last week, they have arrested Zarifa Yakubi, who is an active member of our party, for her protest. And she even didn't want to leave her country. You know, she stayed in Afghanistan. I have, in my communication with her several times, asked her to leave if she feels unsafe. She said, no, if I leave, what will happen to the rest of the women? The last thing they did was they arrested her, and she is, since a week, she's in prison without any news about what has she done, you know, for being arrested. So I think everybody feels undignified because, you know, when you are regarded nobody, and when you are pressurized for your gender, and when you are facing every day something that could undermine your character, that could undermine your moral, you are no longer able to access job, access resources, you cannot go to school, you cannot get out of your home. In many occasions, they ask the male member of the family to monitor the woman. If she doesn't have a certain level of clothes or burqa or cover, the man will be punished. So literally, they have asked all the abusers of women to further abuse women, and there is no level of protection. So I can feel my heart is bleeding when I receive all these voice messages and phone calls from women, from Zarifa's family, from her husband, from her sister. Every morning they're asking me for update while I cannot give them any answer. So I think it's time for international community. And that's why on the 27th of November in London, we are actually organizing a march, a rally, to ask the UK government, but also other international community, to take some specific measures, including holding the Taliban accountable. If they are negotiating and engaging with Taliban, they need to be held accountable for that.